welcome to this week's Pilates. We're going to be doing a ball session today. So one of your little slightly squidgy Pilates balls, and we're going to be working on that. So we're going to do a little bit of work in standing and then some mat work. So if you need to go and grab your Pilates ball, then give me a pause on your screen, go and grab your ball, and you can join us when you're back. So we're going to just start off with the ball. We're going to place it in between that lower calf, so just above the ankles, and just bring your feet as far or as close together as you need to be able to keep that ball in that nice kind of stable position just in between your lower calf. We're going to just make sure in that position you've got equal weight through toes and heels, equal weight through both left and right legs. We're going to keep the knees just gently soft, so make sure you're not locking the kneecaps out. Lengthen through the legs, gently arching through the pelvis, arching and hollowing down through the pelvis one way and the other, back into that nice neutral position. Lengthen through the spine, through the back of the neck, crown of the head, and just loosen off through the shoulders. And then from there we're going to engage through those core muscles, and we're just going to start by doing a little bit of a lift onto our toes and lowering back down again. Breathe in, lift up. Imagine that you're breathing in helium and it's making you float up off the floor. Breathe out, come back down again. Breathing in, lift up. Breathing out, come back down. Keep those core muscles switched on. Don't lock your knees out. Keep the shoulders nice and relaxed. Breathe out, lift up. Breathe in. Good. And keep that control. Lengthen through the crown of your head and lowering back down again. Breathe in. Breathe out. Good. Again. Keep equal weight through both feet and keep that balance. Good, let's do 3 more. Nice and tall through the spine. 2. And 1. Good, well done. Okay, and then from there we're going to pop the ball in between your knees. We're going to come into a squat. So again, have your feet as close or far away as you need to be able to keep that ball in between your knees. Going to come up nice and tall through the spine, soft through the knees, pelvis neutral, lengthen through, shoulders down. And engage through those core muscles. And so you've got a seat behind you. We're going to squat down, trying to keep the knees over the ankles as much as you can. Squeeze the ball, squeeze your bottom, come up tall. Breathe out, and then in as you come back up. As though you're sitting down onto a stool behind you. Perch that bottom down. You're not going to sit down all the way. You're going to stand back up, squeeze the bottom, come up tall. Try to keep those knees over your feet as much as you can. So it's easier to squat down, bringing weight forward, so your knees come forward. But actually I really want you to try and sit back behind you and come up tall. Squeeze your bottom, come up tall. It helps you to actually have a chair behind you. Feel free to bring a chair in and work on those squats with that chair behind you. Just sitting down as though you're going to perch your bottom and then come straight back up again. Let's do 3 more. And last one. Let's just see if we can come into one little squat. Doesn't have to be too far. Coming down, trying to hold it there. Feel you can come a bit deeper, Squeezing that ball between your knees. Spine nice and long. We're going to hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good work, well done. Okay, I'm going to loosen off through the legs. We're going to come into a wide squat, toes pointing out to the edges of the mat. And we're going to come into that sinking down through the knees. Knees nice and wide. So as you look down, you should see the inside edge of both feet. Knees stay wide. If that means you're up here because that's more comfortable for your knees, then go with what you're comfortable with. If you can come down a little bit further, then great. And in that position, we're going to just make sure that we keep pelvis and shoulders stacked, and we're not going to arch through that lower back. We're going to keep that lower back nice and long. So from there, knees wide, pelvis nice and neutral, neck nice and long, shoulders down. Bring the ball out in front of you. We're just going to open up one side and then back through to the centre. Open up through the other side, back through to the centre. Breathe in, open up, breathe out, come back. Good. Just opening up through the chest, twist around through that breastbone as well. Now if you want, you can either just stay doing that opening up, coming back. If you want, you can lift your opposite heel and lower. Opposite heel and lower. Keeping the pelvis nice and still, keeping the upper body nice and stable. So you're not moving through the pelvis. Breathe in and out. Good, keep those knees wide, shoulders down. Let's do one more to either side. Good. And then control up. Good, well done. Bring those legs back in. Good, okay. And then we're going to come down onto the mat. So bring your ball with you, come down onto the mat. We're just going to make sure that when we're down onto the mat that those feet are in line with knees, hips, and when we come down onto our back, our shoulders as well. And from there, once you're down onto the mat, we're going to just lift your bottom up and place the ball underneath the sacrum, so that bony bit at the top of the bottom base of the lower back. Now to make sure you've got that ball in the right position, we're going to just roll your pelvis over the ball. So lifting the belly button and squashing that belly button down. And imagine the ball is like the top of it where you're squashing down is like a flat disc or a dinner plate, and you're tipping that dinner plate forwards and backwards. Now it should go an equal distance both ways. If you feel like you go further down away, tipping that plate away from you, then you do bringing it up towards you. You just need to adjust that ball down a little bit so you don't go as far away. Or if it's the other way around, then just bring it up slightly. So you should go an equal way in both movements. And then I want you to come up to where that plate is nice and flat on top of the ball, so the pelvis is nice and neutral. And also side to side as well, so you're making sure you're not tipping down left to right, but you're just keeping that plate, that disc up nice and flat. And just make sure you're not lifting that breastbone up away from the mat, so just sink that breastbone down slightly, keeping the pelvis nice and neutral. We're going to aim to keep that ball as still as we can as we start to move. So shoulders nice and relaxed, collarbones wide, neck nice and long. We're going to engage through the core muscles. Breath in. As you breathe out, we're just going to drop one knee out to the side, foot stays on the floor. Breathe in, come back through to the center. Breathe out, opposite side. Breathe in, come back to the center. Now, if your hands are on your pelvis, gives you a little bit of a feedback of whether you feel that ball is moving, your pelvis is moving at all. We're going to keep that pelvis as still as possible. But if you feel like that's quite easy and you can keep that pelvis quite still, then just lift your elbows up and see if you can keep that same control. Breathe out, move out. Breathe in, move in. Gently opening up one knee, coming back through to the center. Now just be careful that as you open one knee out to the side, the other knee stays pointing up towards the ceiling. So it's really easy to kind of compensate and not realise by dropping the other knee out to the side. But if you keep that resting knee pointing up towards the ceiling, and that moving knee comes out to the side and back in, but all the while trying to keep that ball as still as possible so the pelvis stays as stable as you can. Don't tense through neck and shoulders. Breathe out, move out. Breathe in, move in. Good. Let's do one more on either side. Good, well done. And back to the centre. Just have a little arch and hollow over that ball again, rolling that ball forwards and backwards. And back to that midpoint, keeping that ball nice and level, pelvis nice and neutral. Again, shoulders nice and relaxed. We're going to engage through the core muscles and we're going to come into scissors. So we're going to breathe out, float one leg to tabletop. Breathe in, come back down. And then swap sides. Breathe out, come to tabletop. In as you come back down. So you're keeping that pelvis as still as possible, not only while you move your leg up to tabletop and back down again, but as you swap from one leg to the other. So it's easy for that ball to tip side to side, your pelvis to rock side to side as you swap from one leg to the other. But you're going to keep that pelvis as still as possible. Again, if your arms are on the floor, then it's quite easy. Then you can bring your arms across your chest or rest them onto your waist. So you're keeping that control. Breathe out, float to tabletop. Breathe in, come back down. Keep that ball as still as possible. Shoulders and neck relaxed. Make sure you're not lifting through that breastbone. You're using those core muscles to gently control and stabilize through pelvis. Breathe out, lift up, breathe in, come back down. And try and keep feet and knees in line with hips. So you're keeping everything nice and straight, nice and controlled. Good. Let's do a couple more on either side. And then this time we're going to float to tabletop, pause, and then we're going to lengthen the leg away towards the opposite wall. We're going to float back to tabletop and lower to the floor. Pause there for a moment. Float the other leg to tabletop, pause at tabletop, lengthen the leg away, come back to tabletop and lower down. So pause, breathe in. Breathe out, float to tabletop, pause, breathe in, breathe out, lengthen that leg away. Breathe in, come back to tabletop, out to lower down. Pause, keep that ball nice and stable, breathe in, breathe out, float the other leg to tabletop, pause, breathe in, breathe out, lengthen through, in to come back to tabletop, out to lower. Pause, breathe in, out to float to tabletop, pause, breathe in, out to lengthen through, breathe in, come back to tabletop, out to lower. The breathing's just really confusing you. Keep breathing, but keep that movement nice and slow. And try and keep that ball as steady as you can. So as you swap from one leg to the other, as you lengthen the leg away, you're keeping everything on the ball, that pelvis and the ball, upper body really nice and still. So don't tense through neck and shoulders. Use those core muscles to stabilize. Good. Breathe out, in to pause, out to lengthen, in to come to tabletop, out to lower. Good. Pause, breathe in, breathe out, float to tabletop, in to pause, out to lengthen through, into tabletop, out to lower. Let's do a couple more on either side. Work with your breathing. Keep that ball as still as possible, shoulders, neck relaxed. Good, last ones on either side. Good, well done. And relax off. Just have a little rock on that ball again, arching and hollowing over the ball, and left to right as well, so you just get a little bit of movement through that lower spine. Good. And then we're going to come back into that nice neutral position on the ball. Keep the breastbone down. We're going to try and keep everything from pelvis to rib cage really nice and still. I'm going to come into double leg stretch. So engage through the core. Float both arms straight up towards the ceiling, palms facing one another. And then from here, we're going to lengthen one leg, both arms away. And then we circle the arms round, but that leg just glides back up into that starting position. So breathe out to lengthen, in to circle round and come back. Good. So your arms are doing little semicircles back to back. The legs doing alternating, lengthening through, coming back onto the mat. But we're keeping that ball as still as you can. Make sure you don't lift through the breastbone. Breathe out to lengthen, in to circle round. Keeping that ball as still as you can, especially rocking side to side as well as tipping forwards or backwards. Good. Breathe out, lengthen. Breathe in, circle round. Let's do a couple more on either side. Last one. Good, well done. Relax your arms down. Take that ball out from underneath you. Have a hug of one knee in towards your chest. Bring the other one in to join it. Have a little hug in. And then circle those knees over your chest, massaging that back on the mat. And then back in the other direction. Good. And then hug knees into chest one more time. Good. Lower one foot to the floor. Bring the other one down to join it. Good. So from there, we're going to bring the feet relatively close to your bottom, as close as you feel comfortable kind of going. We're going to pop the ball in between your knees. And then just rest your neck or your head with a nice long neck onto the mat. Drop those shoulders down and then just come into that nice neutral position onto that marshmallow, that 2 pence coin. So imagine you've got marshmallow directly underneath your belly button between your spine and the mat, and a 2 pence coin directly underneath your breastbone between your spine and your mat. Just squash down onto them and then just arch away, so you could just glide your fingertips underneath, squash down and then arch away, and then come down at least halfway onto that marshmallow, maybe a little bit more if you know you arch through that lower back, and make sure that breastbone's down so your spine's in contact with that 2 pence coin. From there, we're going to work into our shoulder bridge. So we're going to really try and get as much movement as we can through the spine. So we're going to engage through the core muscles by pulling up through the pelvic floor. We're going to squash that marshmallow. Squeeze your bottom. Tighten your tummy muscles to shorten in between rib cage and pelvis. And then you're going to peel the spine one vertebra at a time as you peel up off of the floor. Not lifting too high, so you don't want to feel like your back muscles are working. It should be your bottom and your tummy. If you feel like your back starts to work, drop that breastbone down and then start to peel the spine one vertebra at a time, coming down. Shorten through the tummy, squeeze through the bottom, feel each vertebrae come down onto the mat one at a time. And you're aiming for one at a time. Might be a bit blocky, might be a bit shaky, so try and get as much movement as you can. Shorten through the tummy, squash that marshmallow, squeeze through your bottom, shorten through those tummy muscles, peel up. And then lower breastbone down first, one vertebra at a time as you control down. Good. And again, heel up. Keep breathing. Try and get as much movement through the spine as you can. Good. And again. Feel like you've got really nice movement through your spine. You're getting nice controlled segmental movement through each vertebrae. Then you can bring your arms across your chest and just gently work at peeling up. And without your arms on the floor, just make you work through those core muscles and glutes a little bit more. Shortening down one vertebra at a time. Let's do one more. Good, and then peel back down again. Good, okay. And then just have a little relax off. And then from here, we're going to just work through the glutes. So we're going to lift the hips up. And if you pop your hands onto your pelvis, so those bony bits at the front of the hips there, we're going to try and keep the bottom working hard. I don't want your back to be working. So if you feel like your back's working, drop that breastbone down slightly. Engage through the core. And then from there, we're just going to alternate lifting one heel and lowering back down. Breathe out, lift a heel. Breathe in, come back down. Keep the hips nice and level. Squeeze through the bottom. Don't work through the back too much. If you do, drop that breastbone down. Should work through the tummy and the bottom. Breathe out to lift up and in to lower. So you can either keep doing that, just little alternate heel lifts. Or if you want to, you can lift a heel, try and keep the pelvis neutral, lengthen a leg. Bend that leg back down, lower the heel. Lift your heel, lengthen through, back down and lower through. Keep the pelvis up as level as you can, so don't let one side drop as you alternate and swap side to side. And stick just with the heel lift if you need to. Make sure you're not, balls popping out. Make sure that you're not arching through that lower back. Use those bottom muscles. Let's do one more on either side. Good, last one. And lower down. Nice work, well done, good. Okay, take the ball out. Arms out wide, feet and knees together. Roll your knees to one side as you look away towards the other side. Really try and open up through the spine, keep the shoulders flat. Take that top hip away from the shoulder on the same side. Really opening up through the waist, through the outside of the hip. Good. Nice deep breaths in there. And then gently roll those knees back through to the center. Cross to the other side. Keep the shoulders flat. Allow the upper side of the body to open up. Really take that top hip away from the top shoulder. So you just really open up through that upper side of the body. And gently roll those knees back through to the center. Okay, so from there we're just going to gently come up and turn over onto all fours so we can have a little stretch out. So hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, nice and long through the spine. And then we're just going to come into a cat-cow stretch. So chin to chest, lift the breastbone, lift the belly button. Imagine you've got a tail, tuck it between your legs, and then lengthen through the other way. And again, curling through, and then lifting. Good. One more time in either direction. Good, well done. And then relax off. We're going to come into our mermaid sitting position with both feet across to our right side. And we're just going to stretch out through the front of your right hip. So we're going to bring your right heel to bottom, slide that right knee back, look after that lower back, so make sure you tuck that tailbone down, pull your belly button in towards your spine. And if you don't already feel a nice stretch to the front of that leg, then you can turn away from that side and open up a little bit more through quads and hip flexors on that right side. Look after that lower back, don't arch through the lower back. Make sure you look after that arch, so you're not arching through the lower back, you're lengthening down through the back, pulling in through the belly button. Keep breathing. And then gently relax off through that side. We're going to swap sides. Bring both legs to the left heel to left bottom, slide that left knee back, look after that lower back by lengthening down through the back, pulling in through the front. You can turn away from that side. Hold it for a couple more breaths. Good, well done. And then relax off. And then from there, we're just going to bring our legs out in front of us. You can have a slightly soft knee if you want to, coming up nice and tall. We're just going to gently lean forward, reaching hands down the shins, until you feel a bit of a stretch, maybe through the hamstrings or through the lower back. If you want to lengthen out through the legs, you can lengthen through the legs. Just stretching out through the back, through the back of the legs, maybe through the lower back. Keep breathing, try and use your breath to relax into the stretch. And then gently coming back up again, nice and tall. And then we're going to just gently come into a sitting position. So you're welcome to sit on a chair or have your legs out straight. I don't mind which position you're in. We're just going to gently stretch out through our sides. So we're going to bring our right hand towards the mat, left fingertips reach up towards the ceiling and over. Try and keep that left sitting bone down towards the mat. So you're really opening up through this left side. Work with your breath to try and open up a little bit more. Good. And then gently coming back up and over. Left hand to mat, right hand up towards the ceiling and over. And keep that right sitting bone down, heavy towards the mat. Good. And then gently coming back up and over. Just come up nice and tall through the spine. Just take 3 big breaths in for me. Breathe out, relax through the shoulders. Good work, well done. I shall see you next time. Take care. Bye.